Welcome to the Common Geeking Program. This is a new thing that we're doing now. Thank you so much for coming. You're on the first episode. Lucky you. No, just kidding. We're a long-running series. We're a book club podcast where each episode, three of us read up on a topic and discuss it from a nerdy, geeky perspective. This week, I'm your host, Keenan. You probably know me from your life. We will be discussing time and theme.
Because the only people that listen to this show are the people who personally know us.
Yeah.
Probably because I'm a famous person and you should know me. Anyway, today we're going to be discussing time travel as a plot, in sci-fi stuff. As well
as a plot in sci-fi stuff. That's my favorite.
We'll be discussing time travel
is a thing. Oh, you're right. That's the much more technical
we're going to
term.
be talking about Umbrella Academy and use that as a jumping point for jumping off point, not just as a jumping point up and down, but further to talk about time travel. I'm joined by two people, each of whom have selected a domain they think kind of connects to the topic at hand. They are my friends.
Hi, I'm Timel, or as the people of the past have referred to me as, Chowder. And I will be repping...
And likely in the future as well.
And I will be repping the song If I Could Turn Back Time by Cher on her album,
Are we fucking
Heart
serious?
of Stone. No, I'm not
I
serious.
was about to say, damn.
No.
I was going to be really excited. I was about to say, oh, sweet.
If we're going to spend so much time talking about a fucking song, Chowder's been listening to Cher.
No, what I'm really repping is the graphic novel Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley.
Brian Lee O'Malley, that's his name. I'm excited. Next, we have my son, my baby boy.
I'm older than you. My name is Jeff.
See, that's time travel right there.
It's true. You're right. I apologize, Dad. Don't punish me or ground me.
I fucking will, son. You know how I'm a stern stickler for that kind of shit. Also, don't...
As long as it's sexy. I am going to be repping the, 2006 to 2010 NBC show Heroes.
Oh, man. I loved Heroes, and they're 2 seasons.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Talk about what?
I mean, we actually might.
2 seasons? You're right. There were only 2 seasons, and I loved them all.
Well, Keenan, I'm going to have to talk about those later seasons because does the time travel get really fucking stupid after season 1?
I'm pretty sure I went back in time and got rid of those seasons.
That's totally
fuck.
Well, I'm talking about the different world, the alternate universe in which you didn't do that version of the show.
See, the thing is, Chowder, you did do it in a different timeline, but you're still in the timeline where you're a part of. So really, it doesn't affect your timeline. That's the thing about time travel.
That's true.
It doesn't actually affect your thing. But anyway, those are our hosts. We're going to start by summarizing our topics and domains before we openly discuss. Finally, if you don't know the format of the program, we'll close with a competitive rating section to determine who best contributed and whether today's topic was enjoyable, So real quick, if you guys have not already watched got in your your hands, sunk your teeth into some sweet into some Umbrella Academy, I assure you, it's a show, I swear.
It's solid. It's solid.
It does exist.
Yeah, it's so yeah. The show is solid. I had my friends here and my son read the comic. I offered to read them the comic, but maybe I showed them the TV show, which is on Netflix. Which, if you haven't, the TV show is based on a comic series, and the show is centered around these 7 children, quote unquote. They're kind of like siblings. They're not like children, but they're basically man children. But basically, one day in 1989, 43, a bunch of babies were born across the world from mothers who were not pregnant at all. And eventually a billionaire industrialist went around named Sir Reginald Hargreaves, and he adopted 7 of them. and he created the Umbrella Academy, which is like this.
He tried to adopt all of them.
Yeah, he only got
seven.
seven. He tried to like make like he to teach them, and they all have like weird powers, and he wants to them to save the world. He said. So they're basically like these like children superheroes. But eventually, as they hit their teens, they eventually split off and, became all really dysfunctional people, and the team disbanded. So it comes back together though on when his death is announced. They eventually all come back together.
Hargreaves.
Yeah, Hargreaves, the quote unquote dad. They all come back together to kind of like attend his funeral, I guess. Because they all kind of just stand around and talk shit about him. But eventually...
I mean, I would too, so...
Yeah, he was kind of a shitbag.
One of their own, number 5, who is never given a real name besides 5.
Because he's a shit father, so he named them all 1 through 7.
Yeah, he named them all numbers, and they eventually named themselves.
I think actually the mom named them.
Either way,
yeah.
Their actual names are their numbers.
Yeah, but eventually they find out about this ongoing mechanism of events that will cause the apocalypse from 5, who disappeared when they were just kids because he has the ability to jump through space, and he tried to jump through time, went way too far, got stuck in the future, and has now come back to sort of rally these superpowered individuals to save the day. And of course, their highly dysfunctional family, has to bear it together to save the day. It's actually, fun fact, the comic is written by and was created by My Chemical Romance lead singer Jerome Lay. I'm gonna say right now, yeah, he.
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. Oh, are you wondering why a man who writes song lyrics can't write comic books? That's why. Sorry, folks. I had my guest here talk both about the. I had them watch the TV show as well as I gave them the original comic series, which is the Umbrella Academy Apocalypse Suite, to read and kind of like see if you can compare or get any more insight into that. Did you guys? I know Jeff, you started. Did you finish? And Chowder, did you still gonna do it?
No, I got around halfway through, and then I stopped because I thought we weren't talking about the comic anymore.
Still, I thought I'd bring it up just because like we're talking a little bit about it,
Yeah.
Chowder, did you get a chance to? It's fine.
Yeah, I read a couple of issues, but yeah, I stopped halfway.
Yeah, you get as long as you got to the point where I like to criticize it, which is just Vanya, who listeners is this number 7 and has no superpowers that we know of. In the comic, her characterization is terrible. Everyone's characterization in the comic is terrible. She literally goes to help them because they're in danger. She has no powers, but she wants to help them after being approached by like a man who's like, I want to kill your family and you're going to help me. And she's like, no, I won't. They're my family. So she goes over to them and they're like, fuck you. You're not my sister. You left. And like, she then leaves, goes back to the psycho guy and is like, oh, I'm ready to kill my family. And that's the whole thing. That's her character in a nutshell until the second series.
So I don't know how much of like the entirety of the plot we're going to talk about, but I think we should talk a little bit about specifically the time travel stuff.
Yeah,
involved.
Because and the reason why we're talking about time travel is because, as we said, number 5 can travel through space and time travel becomes a big thing. It's the classic. He has a bunch of hints from the future because he doesn't know. He knows when it's going to happen. It's going to happen in a week. He determines, and they know it's going to happen. And he has like a bunch of like I said, little hints. He's going to happen. It's a week. He knows someone with a glass eye kills everyone, including the family. Like he recognized. At first, I was like, okay, no way he recognizes, his
siblings 20 years older.
His siblings, yeah, that's that kind of string bean, slightly tall blonde kid. Oh, he turned into a little giant, which is Luther, who's number 1.
I mean, they also say he read Vanya's like biography, so autobiography, so he might.
Yeah, but that was afterwards. But like the point is, he saw the tattoos they all got. Yeah, so also in the mix are 2 time-traveling, I guess, assassins.
Yeah.
Like, they're kind of billed as like they adjust the timeline. Hazel and Cha-Cha,
which are great fucking names.
Yes. And a much better on the comics. We're going to focus mainly on the TV show. I may reference the comics once or twice just to like probably say that was dumb.
We should also say that like, so they're from like some time organization that's devoted to like going back in time and like
they're dedicated to like keeping the status quo. Like if there's a radical change in the timeline,
there's a plan.
They set it back to what it is, quote unquote, supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're just this vaguely explained time travel. But like
they're going back to hunt number 5 because number 5 actually, and this is the interesting part about his character, is that when he went to the future, he was trapped there for like 40 years or something, and he grew old, and then he eventually got hired by this time traveling place to be one of their assassins, and he did that for a while, and then once he like figured out the right equation to time travel back in time, he did, and he got back to the first episode the day after their father died, but because he got some part of the equation wrong, he was put back into the body of his 13-year-old self, which is how old he was when he left. So he is older than the rest of them, who are all like mid-30s,
20s, 30s, and
but because they're all the same exact age, but he is older than them, but also he's in the body of a 13-year-old.
Yeah,
which is pretty amusing.
I just want to give a shout out to the actor who
he's really
played
good.
him. What was his? I want to say Aidan Gallagher. Was that him?
Are you talking about the actor who plays 5?
Yeah, I thought because it's kind of hard to do it without sounding like a shit.
Yeah. No, he was pretty convincing, and he's probably my favorite character. I don't know.
Oh wait, how old is number 5's actor? Aidan Gallagher, you said?
He's supposed to be 13 in the show.
In the show, but the actor himself.
Yeah. Well, let's actually that is a solid point. Let's find that out because that is worth knowing. Aidan Gallagher, who is he was 15 in 2003. Good, thanks Wikipedia, doing some math for me.
He was 15 in 2003. Right now it's 2019. So
no, sorry. He was born in 2013.
Oh,
2003.
Oh, okay. That's
he's
different.
Age 15 now. He's 15.
He's 15. Okay.
Sorry, they only list one date for his Wikipedia article, and it's underneath his photo. So I thought the photo was.
I was like, he's 15 in 2003.
Yeah,
I wasn't 15 in 2003.
Yeah, I was also.
No, yes, I wasn't. Great. I had to think about that for a sec.
Yeah,
not even close.
Yeah, so basically, time travel becomes a big play, and I thought we could use this, and I think that time travel here, they kind of do it in a reasonable way that isn't overly ridiculous, but it's also not overly strenuous to the plot, I would say. That's kind of the vehicle, but it's not like we need to alter this time. It's not like Bill and Ted, where it's like, well, that's all we're doing.
Yeah,
we're just kind of like...
Yeah, but Bill and Ted is comedy.
Yeah, but I mean, there's other, but there's other, it's like Paycheck.
Oh yeah,
you saw the future. So now
if you said what's the plot of this show, the main plot is there's a dysfunctional superhero family that are trying to prevent the apocalypse. Time travel is like a footnote in the same way that they have a chimpanzee butler is a footnote in that it all falls into the category of they're throwing in some ridiculous comic book concepts and playing with those tropes.
It's an element, but not the focus.
Right.
And we're going to kind of explore time travel in sci-fi or fantasy, or however it applies to media, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and in particular, if we think Umbrella Academy did it well, and how it relates to our individual domains. Fams, I'm gonna let my co-host. Well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna let my guest. I don't like to call them co-hosts. That implies
that's because it's the wrong term.
It also implies a certain horizontal power structure that I'm just not really okay with in this setting. You know, I kind of need. I'm where I'm at, and I hope you all know that.
No, we know.
Yeah, it's damn right. Chowder, you had an ABBA song you want to talk about.
Well, now we're gonna have to put in that whole bit about.
I'm sorry. What were you talking about again?
Anyways, I'm talking about.
I don't even know if we can make that joke. I think that the joke you're making might have been before we started recording.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure you said I'm gonna represent this song by ABBA.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
If I could turn back time, it's by Cher.
Oh, sorry, Cher. Well, Cher, ABBA, they're both like American, goddesses. Well, I mean, one's Swedish. ABBA's Swedish, isn't it? Aren't they? Yeah, they're Swedish.
Yeah, so anyways, about Seconds. Seconds is a graphic novel by Brian Lee O'Malley. You may know him for...
Chowder. Seconds is a measurement of time.
Yeah, it's not a person.
You fucking idiot.
All right, Chowder, why don't you just take a step back from this? We'll continue. All right. Don't worry, you get to keep your time.
Anyways, you may know Brian Lee O'Malley for making the Scott Pilgrim series, so... Yeah.
He wrote it?
Yeah, he wrote it, he drew it.
Or he just physically made the book?
Yeah. Well, yes.
I mean, yes.
He was the publisher. He was, in fact, the printing press. He used his face as a stamp and disfigured himself every time he put out a new issue. Just slammed his face onto the page with ink on it.
Yep, he gained sentience and then became a writer. It's amazing.
So Seconds is about this chef named Katie, right? And she's going to leave the restaurant she works at to start her own business. But one day, like one of the people who works under her, Hazel, gets a serious burn, and it's kind of her fault for not paying attention. So she meets this spirit of the house, as they refer to, which in this setting is like spirits that look over a place and have like control over certain domains, right? And the spirit like teaches her how to cast a do-over spell, and it was only ever supposed to be used once. And, first time she uses it to prevent the oil burn from happening. But, then continues
Oh, it's got that pun. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like food seconds. Okay.
And, yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's clever.
And she continues to use the spell to, like, basically try to give herself the perfect life by fixing all her past mistakes. I wish I never broke up with my boyfriend. I wish I didn't choose the wrong location for my restaurant. But each and every time she keeps doing that, something always seems to go wrong. And, eventually she, decides she should just, accept the choices she's made and learn to move on from them. Interestingly, the story doesn't end with a return to the status quo, but with her remaining in one of the changed worlds she's made. And it's interesting because the story's theme is learning to live with your mistakes, learning from them, and moving on. And the fact that she remains in a changed world that isn't the one she's originally from reinforces that theme and of like living with your choices. And that's why I chose to rep this graphic novel, because it's really good, and I think it's an interesting take on time travel, where it's a bit like a reset button rather than like actually traveling, I guess.
My child has something to say about, I assume, something that I'm just going to kind of internalize and then forget about. So, son, you wanna tell him,
Yeah, so I'm talking about Heroes,
Wow,
which
that's really good. That's gonna go up on my fucking podcast refrigerator, my audio refrigerator.
let me live my life, Dad.
No, you're gonna become a warlock, and that's it.
Oh, guess I'm just gonna quit this podcast and start doing some fucking magic spells.
Eldritch Blast!
That's a cantrip? No.
Lightning bolt. So Heroes, like I said, is a show on NBC in 2006, 2010. The main premise of it is basically like X-Men style. A bunch of people in the world simultaneously develop these superpowers, and they're all around the world. Although we mostly focus on the ones in America, because
America is the center of the world, don't you know?
Also, that's where we're filming. Like, I don't know, like, I hate that criticism sometimes real quick, just because it's like, it's going to be wherever they can film.
Well,
like, I'm sure...
Okay,
like,
that is just an incorrect argument right there.
Because most of the time, it's filmed in Canada.
Yeah, it's filmed elsewhere. They can make it look like whatever fucking city they want it
if
to.
You're in Sweden, you're not just going to make up stuff all the time. You're in fucking Sweden. But anyway, continue.
Anyway,
your time has been refunded.
It follows a host of different characters, and I'm not going to talk about all of them, but one of the main characters is a character named Hiro Nakamura, who I guess, counter to the point I just made, is from Japan. And he has the power to travel through space and time. He's a great character. The first 2 seasons of the show are really good. And then, at least the first season of the show is really good. Second season is pretty good.
You have to give it to the second season because they do a wonderful redemption arc with Siler. Yeah. So I think you have to include the second season.
I think that Siler gets redeemed in like season 5, but we'll move on from that.
Jesus, 5 fucking seasons.
Yeah. Anyway, the reason that I want to talk about it is because Heroes had the unfortunate problem of staying rather inconsistent with their rules on time travel. And I can talk about like ways that can be avoided.
So why are we talking about a hero?
What?
You mentioned Hero, but then you didn't say why.
Because he travels through space and time. I said that.
There we go. Oh, I didn't hear that part. Speak up, son.
Like in the beginning, right? It's basically stated that like he can go back in time, and if he like changes small things, then nothing really happened. Like it won't like butterfly or anything like that. But there's also a whole element to the first season where Hero's future self comes back and is trying to prevent the apocalypse. I did not realize all of the blatant similarities that the show has on paper with Umbrella Academy when I picked it, but now that's coming out. Not really the apocalypse, just a huge explosion in New York City. But
yeah, but somehow it causes the apocalypse.
I would imagine if like an entire city the size of New York blew up,
he comes back,
debris would like have
it doesn't. No, because he comes back from a dystopian future where the human race is very much still alive, just New York is pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
The thing that irritated me about that whole logic, right, is that it's treating the present and the past and the future as if they're actually real concepts that exist and not just like our perceptions of linear time. Because if he goes back in time, he's not going to change anything. The present is the present. But if he comes back from the future, which is the same thing as him going back in time, then he can somehow change things. I don't know. But I can go into like all the inconsistencies later. It's a pretty good show. And there aren't like a huge number of those inconsistencies like in the first 2 seasons. But then like as it gets later, it gets pretty buck wild. And they just start breaking their own rules. And they do specify those rules, which is the part that really annoys me. Like in shows like Doctor Who, right? Like they change the rules literally all the time. And when people point it out, and by the way, they have characters point it out, the Doctor just goes, "You wouldn't understand." And I'm like, okay, I accept that logic.
I don't understand. You're right.
Yeah, you're right. I don't understand. But in the show, they're like, oh, this is how it works, and I'm going to explain it to you. And then they break those rules, and no one questions it. So anyway,
all right.
That's the TLDR of why I'm repping Heroes. But we'll get into that later.
Gotcha. All right, cool. I'm glad that you all could speak stuff and say stuff good. So, fams, peeps, friends. Well, anyway. So time travel as a concept, I think, I want to, sorry. I want to ask you guys, in like do you guys like the idea of time travel? Like when it comes to do you feel like it can be an interesting thing to explore, or do you think it's more of a device? And in relation to your guys' domains, how do you think that kind of fits?
I mean, like with my domain, it is an integral part of the story, not just in the plot, but in the themes, in the idea of like regrets and like wanting and living in the past. And I think time travel is useful in that is useful in many regards with those kinds of stories, you know?
Okay.
Well, at least from what I heard from what you described of it, I'd still say that it is like a device in seconds, right? Because it's like, I think what Keenan's asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like, does the domain explore like the theoretical stuff of time travel, or does it just use it as a plot device? Not to diminish it saying it's being used as a plot device, but it is a plot device, right? Like they don't explore like, oh, how it all works, you know?
Oh, okay. I see
I
what
would argue I would argue that it's a narrative device in both. Sorry, Chowder, but it also sounds like, Chowder, that yours is also more of, I don't want to say narrative device, but a sort of like a symbol, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
I mean, it doesn't really, I mean, like, Seconds is definitely like a sort of magical realism kind of thing, you know? So, it's not like hard sci-fi or anything like that.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it is a plot device in that it is what causes the plot to move forward by constantly going backwards.
Yeah. And in Heroes, it's definitely also a plot device. They touch on like the exploration of it a little bit, but I think that's like mostly on necessity, not like really to actually go into those themes, and they don't do it particularly well. And I would say like in Umbrella Academy, it's definitely just a plot device. Like I think that
I mean,
it's used for character development.
Yeah.
kind
yeah,
of,
no, for sure, but
not. It's more of a character explanation, I would say.
yeah,
you know?
and I mean, and I think both Heroes and Umbrella Academy being shows that are about superheroes, but not like in the typical sense. Like they're not just things in the superhero genre. They are things that are in some way commenting on the superhero genre. So both of them use time travel because it is a thing that is used in like superhero comic books.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's a common used trope in superhero themes to like have some time travel stuff come up. So both of them make use of that as not an obligation, but like, you know, sort of as like, here's this is a thing that exists in superhero comics, so we should throw that in here to, you know, or not just throw it in there, but utilize it.
Yeah, I mean,
in terms of whether or not I like time travel, I think that stories, when done well with time travel, can be really interesting and like exploring the concepts of time travel. But it either has to, for me personally, I need it to either explain its rules real well and stick to them.
Whatever the rules are, you want some context.
I don't care if they say you go back in time, you change one thing, it's the butterfly effect. I don't care if they say you go back in time, you change one thing, it splits off into an alternate universe. I don't care if they say you go back in time and if you try to change something, you won't do it because time is linear, and even though you're going into the past, you can't physically change the things because you already know that that's like how it happens. Like all of those things are fine. What really grinds my gears is when a show will say some rules like that and then break them, you know, or just like straight up be inconsistent about how it works and have none of the characters question it, because like I gotta think that I'm not smarter than most of the supposed characters in the show, right? So like if there's something that's just like sticks out to me, it's just like, well, why is that way? Then I would it takes me out of it when a character doesn't have that same sort of skepticism.
Yeah, I mean, or for me, keeping a consistency with its rules, it doesn't really matter to me too much because time travel is kind of weird and we don't really understand how time works. So you're almost always gonna inevitably come across an inconsistency because we don't know how time works. Honestly, time travel I think is best used when it is a tool, a storytelling tool, rather than something in which you explore the concept of time travel in and of itself. It works better as metaphor, as power fantasy.
Like in seconds.
Like in seconds, yeah.
It was from what you've explained, it kind of sounds like it was her
it's her
indecision or regret or something.
Yeah,
really
it's
owning up to her stuff.
Yeah, it's sort of a coming of age story in that sense, you know?
Yeah, I will agree with you, Chowder. I do kind of like it as like a plot element kind of vehicle, but I will agree with Jeff that I do kind of need a little bit of consistency, because if it doesn't have a consistent, because there are a few like time travel tropes that I honestly like really hate. One of which being the one that like everything was going to be fine, but then someone unbeknownst to us, like in Umbrella Academy, like Vanya was finding the book and was about to like confront what's his face
Harold Jenkins.
Harold Jenkins, yeah, he was about to confront him, and like Luther and Allison were having a good time with each other, and like for the most part everything was solid, but because 5 went back a little bit before that, we then had to continue on with this story. Like that was all that stuff was redone by his presence, and so now like we have to like continue on. So when it's just used to like extend, I should say, like
yeah, but at the same time, I
kind of don't like that.
Yeah, at the same time with at the same time with Umbrella Academy, I think the idea is that these are all imperfect characters who straight up make bad calls, like when Luther like puts Vanya in that soundproof chamber instead of just talking to her, you know, like
that's just terrible call.
They're all emotionally stunted, and they don't have all the information, and thus they make calls that are bad, you know, because
I'm with you there, but Chowder, my issue with like this particular instance is that it was going to be fine. Like their choices, it wasn't like really we saw that for the most part, like everything was looking like it was going to be okay, and then it's not like he chose to like actively make that a wrong, like do that. He just went back and then like, oh whoops, because
he wasn't in the timeline that we saw first. He wasn't present, so he didn't know all the stuff that happened.
Yeah, he went back to the
like he didn't go to the end of that day and was like, oh, I gotta redo that one over. Like he was like in the future.
It wasn't like a choice for him to like choose to redo it. Is my issue. Because he didn't choose to redo it, it's not like you could say that was a character flaw. It was just, oh well, we're gonna redo that, and then. Well,
see, that scene was interesting because usually they just showed us like he has the ability to time travel and he like does it, and then we see what happens because of that. But that was the one scene where they actually showed us the hypothetical of what would happen if he didn't come back. You know, like we never saw the future where 5 didn't come back from the past in the first episode, and we never saw any of the like we only saw him coming back. No, we didn't.
The apocalypse.
Well, but I mean we didn't relive all of the relive. That was I was wondering why they chose to do that, because they specifically with this scene, or I mean not even scene, it was like half an episode, right, is that they went through all the same events more or less the same time, and they tried to and I'm not sure, I can't remember specifically, but I remember very vividly being quite relieved when 5 came back. So I'm pretty sure something in that timeline the original timeline that they showed happened was pretty bad.
Well, the idea was like there was, as far as they knew, there was a ticking clock on like when exactly the apocalypse happened. Nobody knew what exactly was the apocalypse, so everyone's just thinking, well, if the world's gonna end tomorrow, might as well spend it doing whatever they opt to do, and so what was so bad is that we thought the world was just gonna immediately blow up, and not because Vanya blows it up.
No, but I'm pretty sure like one of them died or something in that timeline, didn't they? I feel like looking it up.
I mean, I'm looking at the Wikipedia and like I can't find it for some reason, but that definitely. Oh wait! I just found it. Luther feels betrayed. Diego discovers that Grace has been reactivated, dumbfounded. Also, Luther confesses to him, finally intercepts a man named Harold. An order to protect Harold Jenkins. He tells them both to kill each other. This is after Klaus's jump.
Yeah.
And after he comes back.
Yep.
Forms the Academy of the impending apocalypse. Fails to inspire the group to fight. Angry at having been excluded, but unknowingly causes a random rainstorm and bends up a lamppost. Klaus asks Diego to help him sober up.
Yeah.
Hoping to see Dave's ghost before the world ends. Luther feels betrayed.
Okay, his name was Dave.
I mean, I guess like it brings us like another step closer.
Yeah. I mean, like what could have...
He finds out some information about Harold Jenkins, but like we were about to find that out ourselves.
Yeah, I guess like
what I was saying.
I guess it could just be that like when in the original timeline we saw, when Vanya found the book that Harold was keeping, instead of like confronting him and leaving, normally she confronts him, has her emotions spike up to a ridiculous level, and blows up the moon, I guess, with her powers by accident.
Are you
guessing?
That's not a thing that happened. Is that a hypothetical?
Hypothetical, yeah.
He thinks that like because he's saying that Five's return did stop the apocalypse this time. It did, not allow us to have a weird cover of Dancing in the Moonlight instead of just buying the rights to Dancing in the Moonlight, but whatever. So like I get that, but I think that sometimes time travel, like Jeff said, you need to give it rules, because if you don't give it rules, it can be used as just a cop out, and narratively, it feels like a betrayal sometimes when you're watching something or you're reading something, and they're just like, oh well, don't worry because we went back to the past and we changed it. It's like, well, I mean, not really, motherfuckers.
No. You know what I hate most with time travel is that it's usually used to like retcon things in the past that like they want to change. Like in superhero comics, like they'll constantly use like time travel to retcon deaths and story points.
Captain America didn't die. He was shot by a bullet and made him go back in time.
Yeah. Or
that's a thing that happened.
Spider-Man made a deal with the devil so that he never married Mary Jane. Which was dumb.
But he lived, or she lived, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's my issue with it.
It's too convenient.
In Heroes too, is that they. It's gonna sound bad starting off, I think, because there are other shows that do this well, but like they just mold it to be whatever convenient plot device they want it to be at the time.
Yeah.
Which for a show like Doctor Who, which is literally all about time travel, and they're doing it like a lot, like. At least they are doing that, but they're doing it knowingly, and they're leveling with the audience and treating us like people who are intelligent by having characters be like, wait a minute, that's not what you said last time, and then the Doctor just saying like, fuck off, you wouldn't understand, right? Whereas in a show like Heroes, they tell us the rules, they change it, and expect no one to notice, and it seems a little bit cheap, and like it feels like you're treating the audience like they're like they wouldn't care about the blatant inconsistencies, or they're too stupid to notice, and that's kind of not fair. So it seems like
like, the problem is, like, time travel is often used to restore a status quo, like...
All right,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Like Code Lyoko.
Yes, exactly.
Which Code Lyoko, by the way, I think is one of the worst forms of time travel, because they just say return to the past, and everything convenient to them is fixed, but everything that also is still convenient is back to normal. And I'm like, no,
that's a pseudo niche reference that we don't need to delve too deep into.
Yeah, no, I
into
know,
right
but my
now,
point is, it's just it's like that. And although I will say though, real quick, Jeff, that I think Doctor Who, you have to give it some slack, just because usually most of the time they use the time travel, quote unquote, to just get us to a location or a time and be like, and then something happens there, and like that's most of the episode.
So first of all, I think Doctor Who is a good example of time travel.
No, but what I'm saying is like even then, like time travel isn't like the forefront.
There are times in the episodes where
there are times, but as opposed to Heroes, where like it's a very core focus of the whole thing. It's like a future hero comes back and talks to him and says, "You have to do this, this, and this."
I would argue it's more of a core focus in Doctor Who, but like for example, I'm saying like in Doctor Who, sometimes they go back to the past and they're like, "Oh, we've got to change this," and sometimes the Doctor says, "Oh, this is not a thing we can change," which is a convenience for the plot. Right?
Oh, the whole fixed points thing. You're right.
Yeah, like there are fixed points and whatever, right? And they don't go too deep into explaining that because they know that it's an inconsistent explanation, but at least they have some character in there, like one of the companions, be like, wait a minute, that's not what you said. And then he's like, well, you wouldn't understand. And it's like, it's too complicated. You're right, we wouldn't understand. The issue I have is when they take the effort to go and make these explanations, being like, oh, but see, you don't understand. It works this way. And then just blatantly contradict themselves like a minute later. Like the whole thing with Heroes, right? Where they're saying
what happens
like...
in Heroes?
Well, like they talk about like the butterfly effect, right? And how you go back in the past and you change one thing and then it ends up affecting the future, right? And so you have to be like really careful when you go back into the past, right? But there's this whole element with future hero coming back, and he's like trying really hard actively to change the future and can't do it. Like it all still happens the same way. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
That's, I think, maybe a bad example. I'm trying to think of a better example of how they just like blatantly contradict themselves with it.
One, give us a shout out. But I think what Chowder said about time travel being so I want to say unfathomable, to be so complex. Let's go complex and so theoretical that it does give like authors and creative types a lot to play with.
Yeah, that's.
But I do agree with both of you in the fact that like it can be used well, but you need to I think I agree more with Jeff than you, Kevin. I think there do need to be rules. There either need to be enough rules for me to understand it, or not enough, or no rules at all.
Yeah, I mean, and that's my thing about it too, is that like, because you're right, it is such a complicated thing, and you can think of like 10 different ways that it theoretically could work, right? Yeah. And the main thing with that is that we don't know. So to me, that means that it's kind of a blank canvas for authors to make up their own rules to it and stick to them, or decide that there aren't any, right? Or like be vague enough about it to not address it.
Yeah,
right?
but like even if you make your own rules, there will be paradoxes that come up no matter what. Like
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, like I don't know, or Umbrella Academy, where like
okay,
5 goes back in time to prevent the apocalypse. Let's say he does supposedly prevent the apocalypse, so then like we get to the present point, and the 5 never has a reason to go back in time to prevent the apocalypse because the apocalypse never happens. So
no, but see, that's a different, because they didn't like, that is positing that time travel works in that sense, where like it's a cause and, like, for all we know about what they explain in the show, it could be a multiple universes scenario, right? Where they go back in time and it sparks a a different timeline. And we do see that happen in the show.
Yeah, Biff runs, the town.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a paradox, because, like, he went back and fixed it, and he's still, like, they can say, because we don't understand how it works, that he's now living in the world where it's fixed, and maybe there's a different world a different hypothetical world where it wasn't fixed.
Yeah, but that's the thing about writing. Like, is it a paradox? Doesn't matter, because
I will. Sorry.
What the writer says goes. Like, oh, that contradicts the rules, but the writer says ultimately goes. So
you're right.
It doesn't have to follow its own rules.
That's what I'm saying, is that it's not a paradox if the writer says it isn't one, because it's not inherently a paradox. You're saying that it is.
Yeah. Well, two things. One, I agree with Chowder on one thing. First thing, I do agree that there are always paradoxes, regardless, because like they tax 5 with how to explode the Hindenburg, but like in his reality, the Hindenburg was already exploded, and we already know the causes. So like, why is this an issue? Two, I will disagree with you, Chowder, and like you're right. Yes and no with the author. What he says goes. Yeah, sure. For his like world, but doesn't mean like it's convincing or we have to like believe it or whatever. If you kill off a character and then he just shows up with like very little explanations, like, oh, I wasn't shot, and it's like, well, no, you were. We saw you be shot. You can't just do things, because as an author you have to. I don't think you owe the audience anything. I think you're right. Like, it's really it's up to the author's story, but like you can't just do things and expect us as an audience to
buy onto it. Yeah,
to go, oh, okay, I guess, because like I think at a certain point you need to keep us,
For example, right? Like in the scenario you set up in seconds, right? Like she uses the opportunity to just like jump back in time and fix her mistakes, and that's consistent, right? Where's the paradox in the way that it works in that?
I mean, I can't think of one, but if I really decided to I wanted to break the logic, I probably could. But like,
it's also a matter of like how deep you go into it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that like sometimes there are just like blatant things that like just blatantly contradict each other. Whereas like other things, it's like, oh, you really have to be like studying physics to understand like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But like, for example, like in the time travel scenario where you go back in time and you can't change anything because like time is linear and you're going back, you were there in the past, so you go back in time and you were there when you were there, and you can't do anything that wasn't done because that already that didn't happen. Like if there's a story that sticks to that rule, like it doesn't have to break that. You know what I mean? Like, if you say that they can't change things and that they don't change things, there's not a paradox there.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know, I guess my logic is, like, similar to, like, whenever people have a who would win in a fight, this guy or this guy kind of debate. The real answer is whoever the writer wants, And I guess I'm applying that kind of logic to time travel, Like, yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I get you, but I think that believes that that comes into, once again, like even like who would win. I still need some like
believability.
Yeah, you need to also like
if Batman goes and shoots Superman in the head with a normal bullet and it kills him, and nothing is brought up about that. That's not a believable thing because we know him to be immune to bullets. You can have Batman win the fight. And also, why Batman
have a gun? Like you can't just tell me Batman decided today was the day, brought a gun, regular bullets now kill Superman. And I think that the best way to approach like this, and you're right, because it's hard to do because time travel, like we discussed, it's so complex and theoretical. It's hard to like. One, give a good enough scientific explanation to justify it, and then also have readers understand. But also, it's kind of like, because you're already in the inherent rewrites that time travel can do, it's hard to keep track of stuff. So I understand. So like, I think the best thing to do is make it simple, or make it not a major focus. Like I think, like Jeff brought up, Umbrella Academy time travel is a vehicle. It gets us to, there's something happening. There's some characters that like we kind of use that as a, oh, well, this is how they are, or this is what they're about.
I mean, I think the main thing
but for the most part, like the most part is like about the interfamily relationships,
right?
And trying to stop this apocalypse, not so much about using time travel specifically to stop it. Like they're not coming back every week going, well, that didn't work. Maybe this time we should move the peanut bowl to the right side of the room, and then you come back and the whole thing's on fire. Like, nope, that's what happens when you move the peanut bowl.
Well, honestly, they should have done that because there were a number of things in that last scene that if they had just done a little bit differently, like maybe rotated Vanya's head like 45 degrees to the right, it would have been fine.
Sorry, you
right?
want what would have been fine? If anyone kept to their characters in the fucking let's let her go. Is everyone chill about this? Literally everyone but Luther? Yes. Luther? No. Oh, well, I guess all of a sudden, I, Klaus, and I, Diego as well, have decided to respect Luther's authority that we've
it's
never
contrary to literally every other interaction we've seen with the characters.
Like, I don't know, like, my issue is, like, literally everyone said at one point or another, that's our sister, and, like, it just didn't, like, I got Luther. Like, Luther, okay, I understand your decision here. I don't agree with it, and you're not my son anymore. But still.
Yeah. Like if you're told that someone could lead to the end of the world, it's reasonable to want to panic and go,
yeah, it's
stop.
It's reasonable also, like, that she did cut the throat of, like, the woman you love. So, like, I get it. But the thing is, that very woman, and, like, if they did not have Allison as part of it, I would have been more like, well, it's just those two nerds.
Right, like if she died from
like if she died, if she was still in a coma or something, I'd be like, okay, I could get behind that a little bit more, you know? But then she came out and was like, it's not her fault. I was like, Luther, come on, you can't stand by your guns now. Like, the person who should have the most upset, who should be the most upset about this, is the one who's being the most forgiving. Let's be honest here, Luther.
I mean, like, to bring it back a little bit, like, I think that the main thing, right, with time travel is not that, like, it holds its place and doesn't have like slight inconsistencies, but if it has inconsistencies that are like essential crutches to the way the plot hinges, then that's a huge problem in my mind.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you could pick out little inconsistencies with Umbrella Academy, right? But the problem, like with Heroes, for example, right, is that there were like entire arcs of the show that were like just surrounded around like, oh, this is how time travel works, and this is another way that time travel works, and those things contradict each other, and you know, like, it was used as a lazy plot crutch, basically, without even acknowledging that it was doing that. Whereas a show like Doctor Who uses it as a plot crutch all the time, but they at least level with the viewer and be like, hey, we're doing this, and it's like lighthearted enough to begin with that you don't like really take issue with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some wacky guy and some weird apparel, you know, doing something.
Do we have any listener questions?
I don't know. No one tells me anything.
I mean, probably not, considering we decided on Umbrella Academy like a couple of days ago. So
a couple of weeks ago, we were very good at
Then
planning.
you should probably just give the line about not having.
No, normally here we would answer listener questions, but we don't have any this time. But if you want to, what?
Chowder.
What?
I'm the host. Now, normally, now, yes, like my good friend Table said, if we have listener questions or comments, we'll read them on the show. We make posts on Facebook and Twitter, and you can comment and reply, dear listeners. And we'll be sure to talk about it if we see any. We don't have any for this week, unfortunately, which I gotta say is a real disappointment in you guys. As your future father, I do have to say that you guys need to step up and make more comments, because I need stuff to do. Daddy needs monies. But you can see those every other Friday when Common Geeking Program is off the air. So like, shares, and comments all enter you into a raffle as well, giving you a chance to pick your own topic for a future episode. You could pick anything. You could pick, I don't know, Howard the Duck, and I'll talk about the Howard Duck. You could be really cruel, and you could say, yeah, you can be really cruel and like pick Dead Space, and then I will be forced, and then they'll give it to me, and I'll personally talk an entire episode about Dead Space and how, and like if you say it's good, I'll find something
Keenan,
good to
I
say.
assure you, nobody running this podcast wants to hear you talk about
I
Dead
assure
Space
you,
anymore.
no one wants to talk about Dead Space. It's a shit game. Anyway,
Hashtag keep Dead Space dead.
we're gonna move on to the ratings. Thank you both for
Now you've got to use a word that starts with a vowel. You've locked
Shit.
yourself in.
an ominous discussion about time travel because it was gonna happen.
A very
Now
temporal
we move-
discussion we had here.
That
A
doesn't start
very
with a vowel.
this is very descriptive definition. Now we'll move
Very
on to the
discussive.
ratings. We will begin by having each of our representatives rate the topic on a scale of 1 to 5 umbrellas.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because I actually, that was a bit I actually really enjoyed in the Umbrella Academy. They'd always figure out a way to get like an umbrella.
What's that? Hold on. Pause. What's that
what?
noise? There's like a fluttering noise. Not right now. Talk? Say something?
Me?
Yeah, it happens whenever you speak.
What?
Do you hear that, Chowder?
Yeah, I'm hearing that, yeah.
There's like a... I assume it's an audio thing, not a bug stuck in your throat.
Oh God! Okay.
So-
good to
I don't know.
Talk
maybe-
again, Keenan? Say something?
say it again. Play it again, Sam.
Yeah, it happened that time too.
Okay, that's weird. I'll be sure to look into the mysterious fluttering noise. But yeah, I will say that I enjoyed the bit of the
Hold on.
gag.
I can't focus now that I'm
Are we
aware.
fucking serious?
That I'm aware of the fluttering. I'm sorry.
It's my fucking computer, I guess. Actually, yeah, it's my computer. It's just it's hot.
But it was only happening when you were speaking.
Well, that's the only thing.
Well, it's not happening
It's not
now,
happening now.
so-
Okay, go.
God, fucking damn, I hate you. Anyway, I like the bit about umbrellas coming in to announce the Umbrella Academy in every episode of the Umbrella.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
pretty
that
good.
too.
Except for the one time where literally, like, out of nowhere, an umbrella blew in the face, and I was like, "All right, you weren't really trying there."
I mean,
But you know,
I
That
mean,
was the easy way out.
one
Yeah,
of them.
but like-
They started off with the like, what are 10 different ways that we can have an umbrella enter the scene? Well, there's the really obvious one. We can't use that more than once, so we'll just save that one.
we'll save that one for an episode we can't think of anything for.
like save that one for like
Um,
when we get writer's block.
Yeah, so on a scale of 1 to 5 umbrellas.
Okay, so I rate Umbrella Academy, and we're rating the show, right? So I rate.
We ask this every time, and I have no idea.
Yeah, I rate Umbrella Academy 2. Nope. I take that back. I'm going back in time and changing that. Whoop.
Damn.
It's 3 umbrellas out of 5.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, you're gonna.
Yeah,
say
no, I was
what
gonna.
about that?
I was
You
gonna
should've-
elaborate. I just had a
Okay.
pause for effect. Okay.
One umbrella. That is all.
The effect was confusion.
Which time travel normally does. So
Just time travel back, and then give it better.
You're a fucking locust again.
all right.
Yeah. So what's up?
Okay, I'll time travel back. So I give Umbrella Academy 3 umbrellas out of 5. Why? Because I think it is a solid show with good characterization, but sometimes I don't think it always lands the mark. But ultimately, I had a good time. Word.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna swing. I think I'm gonna swing on the 4 umbrella train here. I really enjoyed it. I liked a lot of the comedy. I liked all the characterization. At the last 3 episodes, I agree with Keenan. Some of the characterization got really muddy, and that's
and like, what the
definitely
fuck?
that's a good reason for for the 1 star being taken away. But ultimately, I was left with pretty positive, feelings about the show, and it did end on a pretty big cliffhanger. So if they're doing another season, then I've got faith that they'll be able to kind of redeem some of that stuff.
They've confirmed a second season. Although I do want to say though, ballsy fucking move for no fucking confirmed second season. Just gotta say.
Yeah, it would have been a pretty piss poor ending.
Sorry, I actually really didn't like that cliffhanger just because, like, they didn't give us anything to jump off from. Yeah. They literally said, "Are you sure this is gonna work?" No. Boop. And like cut to black, and I was like, Look, I know how stories work, and I know it like probably worked, but did it? You can't even like show us like somewhere in a field in France. They pop out of a portal or something. Like anything for me to be like, oh, okay. It was just like, oh, I guess the world did get destroyed by the falling moon.
Yeah. But ultimately, yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I like a lot of the character stuff, and I thought it was just a pretty good fun time in general. Got me pretty engaged. So yeah, until like the last few episodes, I was really loving it, and then I was just like, I don't under. It's maybe because, like, for me at least, particularly like with Luther locking Vanya, that was a point where everything could have been fine, like so fine. Like you can't tell me, like just like we could have been so okay. And I was super on Luther's side for the entire show before.
Oh my god, the
just
entire
like,
show.
What do you mean? What? Walk up our sister, we should probably kill her. What are you talking about? Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, like Luther, what the fuck?
Anyway, who gets the golden white violin?
The golden violin. I'm gonna have go to Jeffrey.
Woo!
I thought you both did really well. Once again, I think you guys always do well. I thought we had some fun conversation and stuff. Jeff related to a bit more of a different thing. What's it?
Bugs are back.
They brought it back a couple times, which I always appreciate. I like. Also, Chowder, your like light is reflecting in such a way that you have like a. You know how they censor people's eyes sometimes. It's like the reverse of that, where it's like a white light. No, it's great.
I see. I'm looking at my own video and I see what you mean.
I've been waiting for that line to line up with your eyes literally this entire.
Okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm tilted here. All right.
You were fine before.
This is great
there you
content
go.
for the
Boom.
For the
there you go.
podcast.
It's Cyberpunk Chowder. He's part robot, part Bengali.
Not human, specifically Bengali.
No, I'm sorry, but let's be honest. In the future, we're definitely gonna once cyborgs become fucking like people, I guess. We're definitely gonna be like, oh well, he's part cyborg, but only on my mother's side.
Well,
only on my motherboard.
Anyways,
side.
My conversation is gonna come up.
So here's my reaction to losing. If I could turn back time,
oh my god,
I would find a way.
We should have given the Golden Share Award instead.
The Golden Share Award.
Sorry, the Golden ABBA Award.
Sorry, the Golden ABBA. Fuck. Guys, what if we're just what if we're
we're stuck in the timeline where Cher and ABBA are in fact the same.
The same, yeah. I was about to say, like, what if we're just remember a different multiverse? We're like, oh, Cher and ABBA, yeah. You mean Sharabba?
Like, yeah, what do you mean Cher and ABBA? Cher is the lead singer of ABBA. No, she
like
isn't. In my
Sharabba?
universe, she was.
Or Abishur? Abishur or Sharabba?
Abishur or Sharabba. There we go. We have the title for this episode.
Sharabba.
Sherba?
Cher or ABBA. A conversation about time travel. A novel.
Anyway.
Like that's my brief history of the universe right there. Anyway, that about wraps it up, everyone. If you've been listening the whole time, congrats. If you haven't, weird place to start. Thank you for listening to the Comic Geeky program. I've been your host, Keenan Kodish, and you can find me once again in your life because, frankly, I'm everywhere, and you know me. I'm in your homes, I'm in your TV sets, I'm on your radios. It's me, Keenan, a household name. You all know me by my cleaning products, I suppose. I'm sure I have some somewhere. Again, I've been joined by my friend and sons.
Hi, I'm Timel or Chowder, whichever you prefer, and you can find me on Twitter at Timel Chaudhry. You can see how that's spelled. You can also find me 5 minutes in the future, and you can also find me in the Revolutionary War, punching a British man, and you can also find me in Russia during the Communist Revolution.
You know what, Chowder? Now that I think about it, there is that painting of Washington crossing the Delaware, and now that I think about it, you are there.
Yeah,
you're right there behind him. You look really cold, and you're like,
yeah,
that's right.
I time traveled there. I didn't bring a coat because I thought it was gonna be summer. It was winter. It was,
and there's also that photo of Stalin standing next to Fidel Castro, and then there's a
this
smaller
bit needs to end.
Bangladesh boy there, and we don't know, we never knew who that was. But now we know that's you.
Yeah, yep,
Oh
that
God.
was me.
I love it.
And I am Jeff Leavitt. Just to cut in and break that bit right open and put that to bed. You can find me.
That.
I regret not having done it sooner. I should time travel back and stop you from continuing with that much sooner.
If Jeff could turn back time.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
You can find me on Instagram at Things I Wish Existed. There's a dot between each word. I've got a YouTube and a Facebook that are just my name, Jeff Leavitt. And that's pretty much it.
All right. Be sure to tune in 2 weeks from now, Friday, April 26th, for our next episode, which will be hosted by, who's going to host the next episode, guys? Who do we know? Who we got?
That's gonna be me.
That's gonna be our friend and my son, and also enemy Jeff.
In next week's episode, I'm gonna be talking about the movie 9, and we're gonna be talking about some post-humanity type stories. Should be a fun time.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening, subscribing, sharing, everything.
Sharing,
Ritual
you say?
sacrifices
Oh my God.
have not been unheard, and we'll talk to you next week.
This episode of the Common Geeking Program was hosted by Keenan Kodesh, joined by Jeff Leavitt and Timel Chaudhry, or Chowder, whichever you prefer. This episode is sponsored by Shabba, the best thing to come out of the 80s since My Little Pony and Mullets. The podcast is created and produced by Colin Ketchen and Jeff Leavitt, with this episode edited by me, Matt Canavan, with original music by Colin Ketchen. We'd love for you to stay engaged with us at Geeking Program or at #CGP. Reviews on Apple Podcasts are also a critical help for growing the show, and we'll read new reviews on the air. If you want to know more all about us and all our works, head to commongeekingprogram.com. Stay in touch, stay tuned, and thank you for listening to this.
Start our recordings, boyos.
Yeah, I've started my recording. Yep.
Oh, aren't you on top of things? Aren't you a regular fucking ABBA go-getter? Aren't you a regular Meryl Streep?
We're all ABBA go-getters in this house, my friends. I have started my recording, and that sentence is the first thing that's heard out of context, but is also 100% accurate. Abcurate. ABBA-curate.